Welcome to Loud Lens. It's Khandie, and we're going to get an episode that I'm going to be calling, I don't know, photographers' confessions that should have stayed offline. So I'm going to be very upfront. Some of you should not be allowed unsupervised access to Facebook groups, especially or Reddit, because the things photographers consume online are unhinged, out of pocket, and absolutely not things you should be saying with your whole chest. So today's episode is confession based, completely anonymously, and allegedly, okay? Allegedly. If you're listening to thinking, oh my God, who would do that? Just know that someone in your local photography group probably has. So, why is this a confessional episode? Well, I'll be honest, every industry has its secrets, but photographers, we don't even whisper about them. We talk about them. We post them. We with the laughing emojis. And this episode is very simple. I'm reading out real patterns of photographer confessions that keep popping up online. No names, no screenshots, just behavior. And we're going to laugh, but we're also going to talk about why this shit is wild and how we need to be very careful. Because there's something about the internet that we seem to be, let's all offload our problems and talk openly and wildly about one, okay? So let's start off strong with the confessions. I left a wedding early because nothing exciting was happening and I was bored as F. Imagine. Um, Another one. I just sat down during the reception and just stayed there. I did not move. And my favourite one, if you can have a favourite one, I decided that I already had enough shots, so I didn't try to get any more, just pretended. Could you imagine? Like, let's talk about just not clicking a button, just walking around with it attached to your head. Let me translate that for clients. I stopped doing the job you pay me for because I was bored. And there were photographers in the comments replying, same, honestly, yep, same, I see you. That is not okay. That is a breach of contract. That is appalling. Utterly appalling. I left a wedding early. Now, I have my own on that one. If you remember, a couple of years back, I posted about the fact that a photographer disappeared on a wedding. Literally, just when it was my friend's wedding, and they disappeared. They told later that they'd become ill or something, but nobody knew they'd come ill. They just told someone later on, and they did not have a wedding photographer. And I had to step in with what was my camera phone and my camera that I bought, like my little, I think I only bought like a 50mm with me. And because I was on holiday down south, so I was like only doing it quickly, and I wasn't as accomplished as I am now. And I was just like, oh my God, so we had to cobble it together. But yeah, that has happened. That's quite shocking. I couldn't imagine leaving a wedding early. I couldn't. Have I been tempted to walk out? Yes, there was a very extreme circumstances. I was a second shooter. They had a guest who was incredibly volatile and vulgar. And I went up to the sort of best man and said to him, hey, this person's getting really out of hand. They're like, yeah, he's drunk. We'll sort him out. And then he started throwing things and getting abusive. And at one point made his way towards my camera bag. Please understand, I was a second shooter. I wasn't the main photographer. The main photographer stopped him. He then pushed the main photographer over, and in the end, that's what escalated him being removed from the wedding. There was a point where I wanted to leave. Okay, now I do understand wanting to leave a wedding if it's your own safety. I actually have it in my contract, free from harassment, and I'm allowed to, if I feel like my safety is in danger or I feel uncomfortable, I can leave. I don't think I've ever actually implemented it. I have come very close in that one instance, but I've never done it before. Also, I sat down during the reception, just stayed there. I have fallen foul slightly to this, not because I sat down, but I got collared by the auntie that wouldn't stop offloading her life story to me. And at one point, I looked at the bride and mouthed, "Help me," and she laughed and came over to my rescue. But I must have been there about 10, 15 minutes. And I was like, in a wedding time, that's like 2 hours, it felt like. Yeah, I'm lucky that that's not been the issue. But guys, you're putting this on Facebook. Like, could you imagine if your bride found out or your groom found out that you left their wedding early because nothing was happening? Okay. Um, these I'm gonna call I group together as the I don't respect my client. Um, they are quite harsh. I hated the bride so much, I barely did any retouch on her images and I couldn't give a F. She was rude to me all the time and also hated a dress, so I knew I wasn't going to use these for my promo. That I'm going to get back to in a minute. Gonna get back to that one in a minute. The client annoyed me so much, I deliberately took longer to deliver because I wanted to punish them. No, we're gonna get back to that one. Um, I only care if they're gonna be good on my portfolio, to be honest. And this is from a very expensive wedding photographer. I only care if they look good in my portfolio and if they're photogenic, because if they're ugly, I'm not putting them anywhere near my portfolio. That's not honesty, that's cruelty. I'm really sorry. That's really vile. And this person does a lot of highbrow weddings. So thankfully they're all beautiful, obviously. First of all, I want to talk about the one about the hate the bride so much. There must have been something that triggered you for that. Okay. I feel like it's not okay. It's not. You've got to do like the bare minimum. Okay, okay, the bare minimum is still the minimum of what's required, but I don't think I think you just scrape through that. If they complained like about your attitude, you might find yourself in trouble here. Bare minimum, if they can tell you've done the bare minimum, I think that could be reputational damage there. If a client annoys me, I take longer to live out. I'm going to tell you now, don't ever do that. Ever. Contractual agreements are legally binding. Do not put yourself in that horrible situation. If you don't like them, they annoy you, get it done and get it out as quick as possible. Then the least interaction and time you have, you've done your job, you're done. But don't do your job shitty because you don't like them. It'll only be you that gets the repercussions, okay? And one thing I know about social media is how quick people pile on if someone has a good sob story. If they say, "Oh, they were really mean to me, they were really horrible to me," everyone would jump on that photographer and destroy the photographer's business without even checking if that's true. So be very careful. And the whole one about photogenic and if they were pretty and all that for my portfolio, that is shocking behavior in like the most like it's just not okay. Those two people love each other, they've got married, like they are attractive to one another in all different levels. You don't get to them. You don't have to say you don't have to put them in your portfolio because I don't put every wedding on my portfolio, but the reason you don't put them on is because you don't find them attractive. I don't like the idea that you're fancying your clients. When people say, "Yeah, but they still got photos." Yeah, and McDonald's gives people food, but it's not the same as going to a Michelin star restaurant to get food, is it? And if you're telling me you're a luxury item or a luxury photographer, then they still need to get what they paid for in the essence of how you presented it. Like it's not okay. I find that shocking. Okay, but they are not the most shocking. They are not because out there were photographers who admitted stuff that maybe I'm just too close-minded for it, I don't know. So, one person wrote on Facebook, man, it's so easy to find out who you are as well, unless you use anonymous, but do you know what? All of these did not have anonymous tagged them. I could actually, if I wanted to go find these people, because I screenshotted it so I would know to put it in the podcast, but I don't wanna share those with you. I turned up so hungover to a wedding, I ended up puking in the graveyard. Mm. I was still drunk from the night before, flipped the curb parking my car, walked around the block and claimed it must have been some random, and then decided to get a taxi from the venue so they never knew it was me. I smoked a joint before a shoot to calm my nerves and had red eyes, but I said it was because I had a fever. Wow. I don't know how wow. Wow. I think showing up drunk is just a disgusting thing. You're driving as well. That drunk drivers, yeah, that's an anger all on itself. The fact that you were so inebriated that you hit the curb and then had forethought to go, "Do you know what? That's really bad. I'm gonna go around the block so people don't know it's my car." Great. Well done you, but you still drove drunk. That annoys me more than anything you've done there. That annoys me quite a lot. I turned up hungover, which means you're obviously inebriated, so hopefully you didn't drive, but you puked in the graveyard. One, you puked on a graveyard, like a graveyard. I know people like might not have the same respect for a graveyard. We don't know how old it was, blah, blah, blah. You puked in a graveyard. Okay, right before the wedding. People are gonna smell that on you. They're gonna see that. Hopefully they didn't see it because you didn't say you'd been seen. But also, like, imagine doing your couple shoots and all you smell is vomit, and worse if it's even in your pictures. And also your photographer's gonna stink. Like, if not a vomit, at least like a booze. Like, nah. I actually have a story of that actually happening. It wasn't at a wedding, thankfully. So we were at a party and the venue had a photographer that they used to hire that would come and take like event pictures. And we were at this party and the photographer was walking around and I wasn't drinking at the time because it was quite early on and I was still in my new year, new me kind of mindset. So I was like, I'm not drinking alcohol. Look at me. My top tip, get a soda and lime, and then it looks like you've got a gin and tonic. Okay. That's how I was doing it. So, yeah. And also people just don't have to drink. I could go on that. But anyway, back to the story. So he was walking around and absolutely stunk to high heaven of booze. The guy was walking around with pints of beer in his hand, which I get. He can do what he wants to do, but he stunk so bad of booze. Maybe because it was like the time when the pubs no longer allowed smoking inside, so you could really smell the toilets, the food, the beer, and the people. But he was really humping of like alcohol, and he was just like leering. His breath, I remember just being like it was pure like beer breath. It was a shock. Imagine working and being I think it's probably one of the few jobs you could probably be drunk and people just kinda go, "Meh," but I don't do alcohol and photograph. That's just one of the things. I don't drink and drive, I don't do alcohol and photograph. It's just one of those things. Including smoking a joint, I have never done that. I've never done everyone's gonna call me, straight edge. I've never done that, and I certainly wouldn't wanna do that on a shoot. 1, the smell lingers. 2, it would obviously invalidate any of your insurance, and 3, you don't know what your client's opinions on that, and also, if it's here in the UK, it's technically illegal. I know in some states in America and Canada, all that, it's not, but for me, I'm like, "Why would you ever do that? Why? Why would you ever do that?" Imagine paying thousands and finding out your photographer needed substances to tolerate your presence. That's what that says to me. Burnout is real, but so is professional responsibility. And this was quite shocking. I imagine. Excuse me. I'm impersonating Snoop Dogg now, so I'm gonna have a joint before I shoot your headshots because they need to come. No, no. Now, back in the day when I was working for a certain magazine and I was going out, I will say I did see people in the team doing other substances. Never did it in my life. I think because I grew up, it wasn't a big thing for us. Also, I was ex-military, obviously never a thing for us then. We got drug tested. Also, I have hobbies where I get drug tested, so I've never really been into it. I don't really associate. I'm not shaming anybody who does it. Like you do you, but I just wouldn't want to work around people who did that. And I think it's quite sometimes it's quite prevalent. And in my theatre world, where and I do entertainment, yes, you would often see people under influence. I also never got around the people who would do a few shots before they went on stage because that just banks of alcohol as a coping mechanism. They say, "Oh, it's just calm my nerves." I'm like, "It's alcohol. Like, you need to find alternative, healthier ways to calm your nerves." Maybe I'm being really judgy, but it is my podcast, so I can. I don't think it's a great idea to rely on substances at all, especially to do your job. Like, it's no. It's like when I get really, and this is such a finicky thing, and you're gonna hate me on this. You're gonna absolutely hate me on this. I get put off when I see people drinking Red Bull or Monster, like, on a photo shoot, and I know you're gonna come at me and say, "Oh, but Kenny, what about coffee?" Now, coffee's a bit different to me because if you know anything about Red Bull and Monster, they have way more caffeine inside them, right? Significant amounts. That's why they're so bad for you, in my opinion, allegedly. I don't wanna get sued here. Have a look how much caffeine's in them. So for me, I find it really mad that you need that to operate on. I find that people go, "It's comforting." I'm maybe you're gonna come at me and hate me for that, but there's something a bit weird about doing a photo shoot. I went and had my headshots done recently, and during that session, the photographer drank it was a 45-minute session. The photographer drank 3 cans of Monster, and it really put me off because Monster is highly caffeinated and sugared, highly it wasn't the sugar-free one, highly caffeinated, and all I could get thinking about was I could watch them becoming more and more like, how should we talking with their hands and a bit more feverish in the way they were talking, and then they'd slump. And then they crack open another one, and that's in 45 minutes, and I felt like the experience was just a little bit fractured for me. Now, I love people who have nervous energy and they have that vibe, but knowing it was coming from that drink was a bit weird, and seeing the cans there was just like, "You just need to get some decent sleep." Obviously, there's other reasons why people do it. I need to, preface that, but there was something about the fact that someone was almost chain drinking an energy drink to get through the shoot that really put me off. Now, that's a rare thing, and also, it sounds really weird, I did not enjoy the pictures that I got back because I can see in my face the concern of the photos. I remember it's because the direction was so sporadic in how they were giving it to me. Like, "Oh, no, we no, no, look, Khandie, try and" I was just like, getting really frustrated because obviously I'm trying to get these headshots, and in the end, I got my headshots done, and yeah, I was done. And I realize that makes it really bad for me. I don't mind, like, 1 can, but, like, streamlining 3 to 45-minute sessions is really off-putting. Anyway, I'm being horrible, aren't I? Probably. Okay, so here's another one. Boundaries. That's something have you ever heard of them? Probably not. No. I trauma dumped on a bride just before she was getting married because my own marriage was breaking down and I just needed someone to vent to. She hugged me on the day of her wedding and now I feel really bad about it. Wow. Imagine you're about to get married, your photographer's talking about how your marriage went down this morning. Sorry, I love it. Yeah, happy ever after. Love, love, love. But mine, he's a cheating scumbag. He'll cheat on you. He'll get date his secretary. He'll run off with her. They'll go to Antigua on holiday. She'll look great in a bikini. Yeah, I don't even know that was the case. But could you imagine that's your wedding day? That's your photographer. No, no, no. Don't do that, please. Please promise yourself you won't do that. Allow people to enjoy their day, okay? I don't care if you literally just got served divorce papers on the day. Make out that love lasts forever and not one in two marriages end in divorce at all right? Just enjoy the day. I flirted a little too hard with my client's boyfriend. I thought it would help him relax, but he slipped me his number at the end of the session. Nope, don't do it. I don't care how hot they are. Don't, don't do it. Don't ever do it. Don't ever. It is not good. It is so bad. Your reputational damage will be off. Could you imagine if people found out like that you and your client's boyfriend were like doing that, and then she put it on that you flirted and used it? One, probably a breach of GDPR because he's technically your client. But two, like no, hell have no fury like a woman scorned. She will ruin you. She will absolutely ruin you. I told my client about my divorce mid-session in her boudoir session. So boudoir is very intimate, and there you are learning about your divorce. Probably not a great idea. Just remember, they booked a photo shoot, not a therapy session. They're not your therapist. Being personable is fine. Chat, have conversations. But I think we're getting a little bit confused over the boundaries and possibly venturing into inappropriate. That being said, I have been at the other end of this, and I'm going to tell this one. So I was photographing a family session, and it was a mother and her three boys and her boyfriend, I think it was. Like, he bought the session. Partner, I don't know, what age do your boyfriends become partner? I don't really know. And she was a little reluctant not to have too many with him, but she was happy to have if the kids were involved. And I was like, okay, cool. Anyway, towards the end, I said, "Oh, do you want some couple ones?" So she went, "No, I'm going to break up with him later today." And I was like, oh. So I had to do this whole session knowing this guy was literally spent all this money on this session. And she was like, "No, I'm dumping his ass. I just want the photos of the kids." I was like, okay, cool story. Amazing. It was a very awkward session. It carried on like normal. But, yeah, when I delivered the images, they went to him, and then obviously to her, he said, "Could you also send them on to her?" And I did, and, yeah, weirdly, he bought pictures of them all together, and she just bought pictures of her and the kids. So he literally bought pictures of her. Yeah, weird. Yeah, I don't know, maybe it happens. Um these ones I just think are pretty much like business delusion. So I don't use contracts. I can't be bothered. I raise my prices because I'm tired, but not because my work's improved. I just can't be asked. I want to not have as much work, but I also want to get better paid. I ghost people because if they don't pass my vibe check, I can't be asked, and it's an issue. I will just say this might be why you're struggling to get booked, because vibes do not pay rent. You don't use contracts. That is a massive legal minefield. And I don't want to ever hear anybody complaining about a bad client or a client complaint if you don't have a contract. I'm done. I find it the most ridiculous thing in this day and age. You do not have a contract. Like, you have a contract for everything from your phone to your car to, I don't know, even like parking as a mini contract when you park at a pay station, because the contract is that you will stay for the amount of hours, you'll pay for a ticket and all that bollocks, right? I raised my prices because I was tired. I'm all for raising your prices, but do it properly. Don't just do it because you can't be bothered to work anymore and you want to work less and earn more money. That sounds like a great idea, but if your work isn't getting better, I don't understand that. Also, you should be raising your prices. It's kind of a two-edged sword. You should raise your prices at least every year because fees go up. But I also think you need to make sure your work isn't crappy. But then I guess if your work's crappy, no one's going to book you. So I ghost leads if they don't pass my vibe check. Your vibe might be off. I have met people who aren't very good talking on the phone, aren't very good in email, and they've been amazing clients. So please don't think there is some invisible vibe that people need to pass, because it can be really off. Like, it can. Because that might be why you're struggling, because you've got this idea of what things are like and they're not. Um, Content that should have stayed private. This is one that has sat with me pretty. I wasn't sure if I was gonna do it, but this one made me wince a little bit because I have shared stories of my clients that they have shared and they've said it's okay for me to share. But sometimes I wonder if people create content like this for clout and don't realize the impact. But also, I think sometimes it could be a load of BS and it's not really happened. So one guy wrote, "I posted about my client's meltdown during the boudoir, saying she hated all her body and then how much she liked it, just so I could get some engagement on a reel, and it worked for me." The client went mad because she didn't tell me that, but I also said to her, "Well, no one will know it was you." Wow, okay. I sometimes share DMs because it's funny. I have done that. I need to be I do. I do that. Clients never see it, so it's fine. Clients will absolutely see it. And if they don't, someone will. Now, I want to talk about the one about the meltdown and that is you need to seek permission on that. You can't be doing that and then adding her picture at the end because people will know it's her. I don't like that. I think you need to be very careful. I always ask for consent if I'm going to share stuff. Sometimes I share stories they've told me. I try not to tokenize them though. I do it as like a if you have ever felt like my client that you're not good enough, please understand you are. Like there's different seeing like my client was really down. She felt like she was really ugly and awful. Do you see how it's like changed the tone? DMs sharing is something I have done. If I get really out of pocket ones, like the one that asked me to go work on New Year's Day in the morning for like, I think it was 50 quid. I think I remember. I was like, no, I do it anonymously. And they're ones that I'm never going to book and are really out of pocket. I do share those, but, and I know maybe it's not the best, but they're also people that aren't my clients and people who are in my request folder. I wouldn't share anyone that was my real client or anything like that, but yeah, it has happened. I also think sometimes it's really unfair, some of the stuff people share. Um, I do recall a story of where a woman had her wedding photos and then replied back saying, "Hey, I found out my partner was cheating on me with my best bridesmaid, no, my head bridesmaid, is that what we call them? Chief bridesmaid, head bridesmaids. Uh, so can you Photoshop her out the pictures?" And someone used that post, that DM to create like a reel essentially. And I was like, that's raw, that's unhinged. Unless you got permission. But yeah, the things like that you need to be a bit careful of. Clients never see it, so it's fine. I have a great let me just tell you now. Like I said, there are people in these photography groups, in these groups, wherever you're posting, who will screenshot. And it doesn't matter if it's private, it's a private group, they will do it. And they will share it and they'll share it with brands and they'll share it with potential customers and they'll share it. They will. And you never know when a client's going to see it. Okay. So I want to be honest with you. These confessions don't often get challenged. They're often validated because this industry has, to some degree, or at least in the Facebook groups, normalized disliking clients, minimal effort, public contempt. And then photographers wonder why clients micromanage them or contracts get tighter and trust is so low they're not getting booked because you can't joke your way out of accountability. I think this episode, although it'll make you laugh and cringe at the same time, I hope that's a funny thing and it's good. But if you recognize yourself in any of these confessions, I wouldn't say it's a personality trait, but it is definitely a warning sign. You don't need to quit photography. You don't need to go to hiding, change your persona. But I do think we need to understand boundary systems and maybe take a little bit of a break. I was going to do a part two on this with some confessions that were sent to me via Instagram, but I was a bit worried that it might. So if you are interested in me doing one, because I do have a few backed up here that I could share, let me know because I think some funny ones would be great. But anyway, until then, be careful what you post out there, kids, because the screenshots I'm seeing are a bit shocking. Yeah, they're a bit shocking. Anyway, take care, and I'll see you all soon.